Welcome to the Creation Matters podcast, where we share the reliability of the Bible, real science, and the gospel. I am your host, Preston Knapp. Caleb's going to be my co-host, Caleb Ray. Thank you for joining me.
Good to be here.
And we have our special guest, Jonathan Good. He's been with the Creation Experience Museum for over a year now. And Jonathan, welcome to the Creation Matters podcast.
Thank you for having me on here. It's an honor to be here.
So we're going to be talking about archaeology because that happens to be Jonathan's specialty. You do have a master's degree from Evangel University in theology, as well as degrees in biblical studies. But history, archaeology is kind of your point of interest. And he is definitely the archaeological expert on the museum team. There's no question about that. I know I've learned a lot just talking to you over the during our break times and such. So I'm excited to dive into today's subject.
Yeah, well, again, thank you for having me and allowing me to talk about this stuff.
And so you traveled, you don't just study the stuff in the textbook. You've actually traveled to Israel, to Turkey, and have done some research. You've been to these archaeological sites. We could spend a lot of time, and we certainly will, in future episodes, be talking more about some of those trips. But we're going to specifically focus in on Israel today and what you learned from the geography and the archaeological sites about God's provision for his people.
Yeah, and like you said, I could talk forever about some of this stuff and the things I saw in Israel. But there's just a couple of things I wanted to talk about that were just fascinating, that really stood out to me, the highlights for me on that trip. Sure.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with a few preliminaries. What got you interested in archaeology to begin with?
Yeah, well, it started out in junior high. Before that, I always enjoyed history. Growing up, we learned about American history, Revolutionary War. It was always fascinating to me. And then in junior high, in sixth grade, I had my first world history class.
Okay.
And it just blew me away. Studying about, we studied all the major cultures, like Aztec, Roman, Israel. And we did study about Israel and the Bible because I went to a private Christian school.
Okay.
So it was really fascinating to me to be reading about the stuff in history class and then also read about it in Bible class and seeing how the two were going together. As a kid, it was like a treasure hunt, and I was like, can I do this for a living? like this, literally, as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like Indiana Jones.
Well, sure, yeah.
It's not. But like, I was like, this just sounds amazing. And I remember asking the Lord, like, could I possibly do this as a career? And I felt like he said yes. And obviously, I'm still on a journey with that. But It blew me away how much the Bible lined up with history and how the two worked together and coincided. And I just knew I wanted to study more.
Sure. All right. So then what year was it that you went to Israel? I believe that was when you were in college. Part of your study was to go there, correct?
Yeah, it was part of my study. I went in the summer of 22.
22. Mm-hmm. Okay. So not all that long ago.
No.
All right. So kind of give us the rundown. What was it like being in Israel, and how long were you there? And what were the highlights?
Yeah, it was amazing. We were there for about 3 weeks, the whole team of us. Again, it was a big tour group. So we were going to all of the major archaeological sites.
So it wasn't just like a student group; it was a regular.
No, it was a student group from a couple different colleges together.
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
was there a particular thing you were studying while you were there? Like
we were studying the history, the archaeology, and the geography.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically a Bible Lands Basics course. We went with the Center for Holy Land Studies. Fantastic tour group. If you ever want to go on a tour to Israel, I highly recommend them.
I think I've heard of them before.
Yeah, the name does sound familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I did get some college credit for it and stuff. But again, it was just a dream of mine to go to Israel and see those sites. And like I said, it was about 3 weeks, just a little bit under a month. We were there. First week, we were down in the Negev in the southern part of Israel. And then we shot up straight to the top to Dan, which is at the most northern part. Second week, we were in around Galilee and the northern area, all around the Sea of Galilee, following Jesus' ministry up in there. And then finally, the third week, we were in around Jerusalem and the surrounding hill country. So all kind of the middle of the country. Mostly focused on Jerusalem, of course, though.
Sure. I'm sure there was no shortage of archaeological sites around Jerusalem.
Oh, no. Everywhere you went, it was another archaeological site. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard is that pretty much any time there's any kind of digging going on, construction, new buildings, anything, if they come across an artifact, it becomes the government's or whoever's at that point, and they take over it.
Yeah, it becomes full stop, and they have to determine how important is the site.
Okay.
And they have to have archaeology teams come in quickly and say, okay, is this, what is here? Can we remove it and let them keep building, or is it now an archaeological site?
That's gotta be rough if you've got like a business planned out and all of a sudden, important artifact was found here.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes, yeah. But it is a mixture. You'll see places that have a modern building and then a dig site right next to it or underneath it, and
Oh, wow.
because it's just like they started building and found something, and so
Interesting.
now part of that place is not just that business or company; it is also an archaeological site that people can come and visit, and it's very much a mixture.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So, what were some of the fun things that you got to do on your trip, and then we'll dive into maybe some of the more technical things that you were able to research.
Yeah. Oh, we did so many fun things. We got to go to lots of hikes all around the place, up in the hills. Climb. I almost died on either coming down Gamla or Mount Arbel.
What was that all about?
Oh, just very steep coming back down. And yeah, lots of walking. So after a week of walking and trying to scramble down a mountain, we got to go in around Jerusalem, got to see some of the shops and the stores, got to see some really cool historic churches and traditional sites like Church of the Annunciation and Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Mhm.
Sorry. That was really cool. Some of the other churches we got to see the Jesus boat, if you've heard of that.
I have not. Yeah, go
It's
ahead and explain that.
it's a first century fishing boat found in Galilee.
Okay.
It was discovered when the waters had receded for a period, and it had just been preserved under the water in the mud. And a big archaeological event of getting out, keeping it preserved, and now it's housed in a museum. So it's just the remains of the boat, but it's the type of boat that would have been around the first century that the disciples and Jesus would have been on.
Okay. So just as a clarity, we're not saying this is the boat Jesus was on.
No. We'll probably never find that.
Right. But
Yeah.
The type of boat.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
type of boat.
Yeah.
And I also got to go on a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee, on like a modern reconstruction of that type of boat.
That sounds really fun.
It was. I mean, it was a whole party. We were there. The boat people give you they teach you how to do a little Israeli dance, and yeah. I got to stay in the Negev down in a actual Bedouin camp.
Oh.
Overnight we got to stay in the Bedouin camp. Got to go on a camel ride. Got actual Arabic coffee from the Bedouins that they made right in the sand in front of us.
Sounds better than Starbucks.
Oh, it was hard to drink. I'm not a big coffee drinker, and it was mud.
Oh my! I think I actually would prefer Starbucks. Not that I'm a coffee drinker either.
Yeah. I also got to do a lot of swimming.
Okay.
I got to go at almost every body of water you read about in the Bible. We went to the Dead Sea, got to float in that. We got to swim the Sea of Galilee. Galilee is beautiful. So I love swimming there. And even the Jordan River. They always do you baptize in the Jordan. That's one of the traditions you just do when you go to Israel. I actually ended up getting baptized twice. Because the first time they forgot to get my photo.
You have to have that so you can have proof.
Exactly. You need proof, yeah.
I'm sure when John the Baptist was doing baptisms, they had portraits.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
To commemorate the event. And I noticed you said you floated in the in the Dead Sea.
Yes.
Explain to our listeners why it is you can't go diving in the Dead Sea so easily.
Yeah, and even floating is a bit of a stretch in my opinion.
Okay.
It is
Dead.
Yes. It is amply named. It is salt and mud and a little bit of water.
Okay.
It is so rich in salt that you are super, super buoyant compared to the water.
You are, but also you don't want to go diving because it is so salty. If you get in your ears, your eyes, that's actually a little deadly. It's dangerous. You don't want to do that. Like you feel it. Like if you even if you have a microscopic paper cut, it is going to burn.
Wow.
So bad.
Yeah, I mean, you ever heard of getting salt in the wound? It's
It really is. And because it's so muddy, like yes, you're floating, but you're also constantly trying to keep your balance.
Okay.
Because you're sinking in the mud.
I think quicksand, but if it was salt.
Yeah, I almost lost my sandals a couple times.
Interesting. You're getting me to move going to Israel further up on my bucket list.
Oh, you definitely should. I highly recommend it.
Do they still have wilderness area over in Israel?
They do. And that's actually one of the things, one of the highlights I want to talk about today is the Wilderness of Zin, or what's also called the Negev. It's a region. The Negev is the southern part of Israel, and it is the wilderness.
All right, well, we'll just go ahead and dive in there then. Tell us a little bit about that wilderness and what it's like, and what stood out to you about it.
For one thing, it is hot. I mean, everywhere in Israel is hot.
I was going to say, I thought that was just Israel in
general. Yeah, it is. We were lathering sunscreen on everywhere we went. But it's rocky, it's dry. It is a desert, but it's not like the Sahara where it's sand dunes.
Sure.
It's just very rocky.
I'd compare it to like Arizona, but like way less red.
Yes, yes. And I mean, I've never been to Arizona, but I think even a little rockier. Like it's a lot of loose rock as well. So very dry, very arid. There's hardly any water, and what is there, not clean to drink. Hardly any vegetation. Most of the vegetation is surrounded around when there is a spring or something.
Sure.
The rest around it is just these dirt brown scrub bushes, as I call them. Just they look pitiful. But there's a lot of cool things. We'll talk more about that. And then it's very hilly and valley filled. They have these big ravines. Often these are wadis, as they call them. And when it does rain, when it is the rainy season, those become torrential flood zones.
Okay. Interesting.
So like flash floods.
Flash floods, yeah. Very much flash floods. So if you get caught in a wadi in the rainy season, it could become a flash flood in seconds, and you're just swept away. So it's not a very nice place.
Very hostile.
Very hostile. We were climbing up through the canyons and ravines at one point, and our trail would literally lead up to like a ladder built into the rock that we had to climb up. And it was a very fun experience. Very hot, very dry.
And this was in the Wilderness of Zin? Is that how they pronounce it?
Yes, Wilderness of Zin.
Or Negev. That's right, you said that.
Yeah,
earlier.
Negev. The Negev is kind of like, I think, the broader region to my recollection.
Oh, okay.
And Zin is a part of it. Again, to my recollection.
So, why is this environment interesting then? Like, what makes this special?
It was very special to me because it connects to a lot of things we read about in Scripture. The first one that really stands out is when the children of Israel are in the Exodus. This is where they begin to enter the general region of Canaan. They do when they actually enter. They go across the Jordan over on the eastern side. But when they're first traveling up from Egypt, they enter the Wilderness of Zin a number of times actually.
Right. Yeah, I do remember that from the account.
They mentions it in Exodus 6:1, Exodus 17:1, and Numbers 20. And you read in the Bible, you'll hear the word sin, because that's just the modern English translation. Also, it's going from Hebrew to Arabic.
Sure.
Because a lot of the names, and that's one of the things you see a lot of places, place names have remained mostly the same. Like the words changed a little bit, but it's still maintained its etymology, what its meaning. And so Zin's an example of that. Israel entered Zin quite often. And they were traveling throughout the Negev area during their wandering, going into Israel, and when God rejected them from entering the land initially, the wandering for 40 years, they wandered again in this area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so it's a desert. It's very rocky.
Mhm.
Not a whole lot there, which might explain why they found plenty of occasion to grumble.
Yes. One of those grumbling in particular stood out really to me on the tour, and you find that in Numbers 20, verse 1. Well, verse chapter 20. Don't mind, I'll read
Sure.
the passage. So again, Numbers chapter 20, starting in verse 1. In the first month, the whole Israelite community arrived in the desert of Zin. My Bible actually says Zin.
There you go.
And they stayed at Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water for the community, and the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. They quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring the Lord's community into this desert, that we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to this terrible place? There is no grain or figs, grapevines or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink."
Sounds like they're thirsty.
Yes, it does. Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting and fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. The Lord said to Moses, "Take the staff, you and your brother Aaron, gather the assembly together. Speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out its water. You will bring water out of the rock for the community, so they and their livestock can drink." So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he commanded him. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, "Listen, you rebels. Must we bring you water out of this rock?" Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Water gushed out, and the community and the livestock drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I give them."
All right, so now give us a little insight into that since you've been to this wilderness.
Yes. So, again, like you said, it's a very easy place to grumble. It's hot, it's dry, there is no water. And it kind of makes sense why they're grumbling, and we see Moses do this miracle in front of them, and that seems to resolve it. And one thing, again, it's a place that's easy to do that, easy to grumble. But you kind of see Moses is also grumbling a little bit.
Yeah.
He's a little fed up with them. And that's something my tour guides kind of point out to us is Moses he's a little grumbly too. He's a little tired. And he doesn't fully listen to what God tells him to do. And this is clearly seen, and I think most of us understand this passage like, okay, like Moses goes, he strikes the rock, God tells him to speak to it.
Right.
He does something wrong here, and that's why he's not able to enter the promised land. For me, it was always a bit of a confusing passage. Like, okay, I get it. I get Moses did something wrong here. But why? Like, because just a couple chapters before, there's another story where Moses does strike a rock.
Sure.
Because God tells him to do it, and water comes out. And that's fine. What's really the problem here? And something our guides point out to us is the region has a lot of limestone in it. And when it does rain, that stone soaks up the water like a sponge and holds it. And oftentimes shepherds will go to those places, actually the scrub bushes I mentioned, because they know that's where in the rock they can strike and water will come out.
Interesting.
And so Moses here, what our guides point out is Moses is kind of stealing the miracle.
Sure.
And you can see he's fed up. He's
Right.
like, "Dude, really? Me and Aaron, we have to do this for you?" And you see the people, most times it mentions the people grumbled against God. On the other occasion, it says they grumbled against Moses and Aaron. And they're saying, why don't you just let us die with the rest of everyone when God didn't let us enter the promised land initially? And Moses is fed up. He's tired of it, and he's trying to justify his leadership, saying, "Look, I can do this." And he's remember, Moses was a shepherd.
Sure.
When he first escaped Egypt, and he did his own wanderings before the Lord called him to go back, he was a shepherd. He would know how to find water within the rocks. He would know that stuff. And so it's still a miracle.
Well, sure.
Because there's enough water for the whole community.
Right, that's what I was thinking. It's not like there wasn't a miracle because
Right.
you're feeding an entire nation from a rock. Well, helping it, or not feeding. Well, is giving water feeding? I don't know. Anyway, you're giving
Watering.
Yeah, you're watering an entire nation and all of their livestock.
Yeah.
From a single rock.
Right.
Which is impressive.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's still definitely a miracle. But another aspect of it that I was always taught, is just that Moses is misrepresenting God's character here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just that he's stealing the miracle, but he's also he's letting his frustration bleed into his actions, which is not what the Lord wanted in this situation.
Right.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Right. And if he had just spoken to it, like God asked him to, how much more of a miracle would that have been?
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously the people of Israel really needed to see at that time.
Right.
So, it made so much more sense when I saw the landscape, the reality of the landscape that they were in. Because I don't live in that landscape. Honestly, going to Israel was the first time I've really been to a true desert.
Okay.
I'm from New Hampshire, where it's trees and mountains as far as the eye can see, and lakes and rivers. So, seeing that reality of that landscape and like, oh, this really plays into this story and into the way that people are feeling and acting, and also to God's judgment, saying, hey, you stole this from me, you misrepresented me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a consequence for that. You didn't, and he literally says, you did not trust me enough.
Right. Yeah, you didn't trust me you didn't show me honor.
Right.
You didn't allow me to be honored in the sight of the Israelites. You were more concerned about getting that honor for yourself.
Right.
Which, God would take that pretty seriously.
Yeah. And many of us are in leadership positions, and it's easy to be like, come on, like, why are you grumbling? Like, I'm trying my best here. Why do I have to put up with all of
Right.
this?
It's a very human response.
It is. But it's one to be careful about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an important passage that shows the importance of trusting God to provide for us in those areas.
Right. Wow. I believe this is also kind of the same area that David spent some time in.
He did, yes. Probably spent some time in, very likely. A good example of that is the ties scripture is Psalm 23. And you're probably very familiar with that. I'll also give that a read. Psalm 23 has a very famous passage. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Again, this is very famous. Everybody knows Psalm 23.
Oh, sure.
It's the main Sunday school Bible verse you memorize. But another thing that I learned in Israel from the lectures I got to listen to and the sites I got to see is that it most likely its imagery it's pulling from is the Negev. We often think when you hear about shepherds and green pastures and stuff, you think a beautiful place, like even here in Branson, someplace nice and calm, peaceful, green grass. But when you look at the history of Israel and you look at the landscape, they would bring the sheep into the Negev. Even today, you will see, like I said, I got to stay with Bedouins. They live in the Negev. That's where the nomadic peoples will still travel through.
Okay.
It was really interesting. Our guides point out that if you look closely at the hills in the Negev and the Wilderness of Zin, you will see almost these lines going up and down the hills across them. And these are ancient sheep paths.
Huh.
These are the paths that even today Bedouins will still take, and they've been carved into the hills.
That's kind of cool.
Because they've just continued along those paths. But that leads into when you think about that imagery and you look at the psalm, it begins to actually make sense. Straight paths. You lead me along straight paths. The shepherd knows the paths to go on. Mm-hmm. You lead me beside quiet waters. Again, the Negev is a place you don't find much water. And when you do, it's in the wadis, and it's dangerous. It's rushing. It's
not
rapid.
Quiet.
It's not quiet. It's a place of danger, of death. But the scrub bushes, the shepherd knows where to find those trickles of water that the sheep can drink at.
I've heard it said that Israel was once much more lush than it is currently. Is there anything to back that up? Or do you think that it's not the case?
I think, Preston, you know a little more about that than I do. I'm sure it's very much ebb and flow at times. So I'm sure at times it was more fertile in areas. And there's also my experience with it, I can say that much, is the northern area is a bit more fertile, especially up to Dan. It almost looks like New Hampshire in Dan. It's big, tall trees, rushing rivers.
Oh, that's cool.
The further south you go, it gets into fields where you're able to grow crops, but it's still hot, arid, dusty.
Yeah.
Not the most ideal place to be growing food. And then the further south in the Negev, it is that desert.
Oh, okay.
Preston, I'm sure you can say more onto that about the history of that and stuff.
Yeah, my knowledge would be more of just from a 30,000-foot view of, we see clues in Scripture that obviously, even just taking the children of Israel's wanderings, there are times they have no water and they're complaining about it. But keep in mind, we're talking about a couple million people probably. They have large herds, so herds in the millions maybe.
And they're not necessarily in the Holy Land yet either, at least during this complaining period.
Right, but it's the same area, the Negev.
Yeah.
And so or maybe it's reasonable to assume that there was probably more vegetation there than today. However, if you study the history of civilizations and the way soil erosion takes place and what have you, it's very much a ebb and flow at times. Sure, you can have better soil, therefore better weather and better vegetation and things, but then it gets depleted very quickly.
Yes.
So you have to be. It's still a very fragile environment.
Yes, that is a big thing I saw. I mean, even today you have the modern kibbutz and almost man-made oases you'll find scattered around Israel. Even then, you're still having to conserve water. You're having to recycle water. You're having to make ways of putting water in the desert.
Gotcha.
So it's not the easiest lifestyle.
Sure.
Even in times of more plentiful, more abundance in that.
Yeah, you still have to be conservative.
You still have to be conservative because it runs out.
Right.
And even today, and even ancient times, I'm sure the Bedouins and nomadic shepherding people knew how to scratch out a life in that area.
Well, that was one of the reasons why they were nomadic.
Right.
You don't stay in one place real long because you will use up all the resources. You just kind of keep moving around.
Especially when you have sheep.
Yes, I have a little bit of experience with that with my own sheep.
Yeah.
So. They eat a lot and you got to keep them moving.
Yeah. But that's one of the reasons why you put them in the Negev, because you probably don't want them near the crops in the more northern aspects of Israel. And so again, you have them traveling in the Negev, and you have the straight paths that they can walk. You have those calmer waters, and you even have even the most famous part of that passage. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. The Negev is full of valleys, and as we've discussed, even probably in the best of times, it's a hard place to live in. It is like you're living in death. It's a desert. So you can see the imagery of just feeling surrounded. And you do feel surrounded. My first day, I actually had major jet lag, so they let me sleep in the first day.
That's nice.
But I woke up by myself in the kibbutz in the hotel we were staying at. And so I just began to wander around. And I'm like, okay, this place is nice. It's beautiful. It's got some trees. And I'm just wandering around through these homes and hotel rooms. And I didn't even realize it, but I ended up getting to the edge of the kibbutz. And it was just like a sudden change where it went from trees and water to just desert.
Wow.
As far as the eye could see. That was like my first big moment in Israel. It was like, whoa, I'm in an oasis. I didn't realize that.
Wow.
And so you can see that imagery, and you can see the imagery that David is using in this passage that he's pulling probably from experience, probably taking sheep down into there. And you can see how the geography shows that. The imagery he's pulling, and all this, it doesn't change what we think. Again, we think this is God providing in our darkest hour. It still is that. But it's for me, it was like, hey, it's not just God's going to give you this bountiful, lovely palace to just rest in. He's going to give you rest. He's going to give you peace, and you can trust him in the worst possible places, in the valley of the shadow of death,
right?
In the desert, in the wilderness. You can still trust God. He's still going to provide for you. He's still going to protect you from your enemies, from anything in the desert that could try to kill you. Mm-hmm. He's still going to be there for you.
It makes me think that, you probably have to go down into the valleys to find the water. I'm going to assume that's where most of the water is. And that's also probably where the predators are going to hang out because they know that's a choke point.
Yes.
It is the valley of the shadow of death, and you have to trust your shepherd as he leads you there.
Right. You have that other aspect of predators, of animal predators, but also humans. It's a great place for bandits to hang out in. Mm-hmm. And those valleys, those ravines are great choke points, great places to attack and ambush people.
The other thing I think about is like, when you were mentioning those flash floods earlier, I was thinking, oh yeah, that's the last place you want to be during one of those flash floods, is in one of those valleys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And those flashes can come without warning. Mm-hmm. It can look dry and barren and then
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely can see where an understanding of the landscape brings a whole lot more depth to that psalm of, you trust God, and he takes care of you. Mm-hmm. Even when it's just step by step.
And to be honest, to me, that makes God's provision all that more better.
Right.
Because he's not just going to remove you from everything. He's not just going to, here's your nice little, cozy spot. But he steps into the reality. He steps into the difficulty, into the pain, into the fear. And he walks with us through that.
Sure.
He guides us through that. He's our shepherd guiding us on those paths. So no matter where in life we may find ourselves, whether in a lush time or in just a completely barren time, God is with us. And that is just mind-boggling, to say in an official, fancy way. So again, just realizing that he steps into our situations. I mean, that's literally what he did when he came and died. When he came to earth, when he died on the cross for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love to talk about that in the museum. Is he came into our situation, and for us it was the pain, the suffering, stuff we brought into the world with our sin. So he doesn't have to, but the fact that he was willing to come, step into that, to die on the cross, to take our sins on himself. And again, just going to Israel really showed me that. Even just getting to go to places like the Garden of Gethsemane.
Sure.
And seeing how close he was to the crucifixion site, even there. Seeing how close he was to the desert, where he could get away there.
Wow.
And
you don't think about that aspect.
No, you don't. One thing our guide showed us was that it's not necessarily Zin, but on the back side of the Garden of Gethsemane is desert.
Wow.
So Jesus totally could have just escaped from the soldiers. He could have just run away, hid in the desert. They would have never found him. And yet he chose to stay.
Wow.
And he chose to take on all of our problems, step into our situation, and redeem us, to save us from it. And just seeing that when I was in Israel, it's stuff but when you see it, it just blew my mind. And it again, made me appreciate even so much more how much Jesus loves us.
Sure.
And that he offers that to us, that he did that, and now he just offers it to us for free.
Mm-hmm. David describes, or starts the Psalms 23 with, the Lord is my shepherd. Mm-hmm. He is the one who leads us. He's the one who guides us. He's the one who's there. Mm-hmm. Jesus talks about how I am the good shepherd.
Yes.
I lay down my life for the sheep.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's a wonderful way to wrap up this podcast, is just remember that Jesus, if he's not your shepherd, he wants to be. Mm-hmm. He's out seeking for the lost when he has the other 99 in the fold.
Absolutely.
And, if you need to make that decision to follow Jesus, now's a great time to do that. So, well, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We really appreciated it.
I thank you for having me.
And thank you to the listener also for joining in. And we look forward to when you will be with us again next time, as we will continue to study science and see how it brings glory to God. This podcast is produced by the Creation Ministries of the Ozarks, which also operates the Creation Experience Museum in Branson, Missouri. If you're in the Branson area, come visit us and get a free guided tour and see how science confirms the Bible. You can book your free tour at creationexperiencemuseum.com or call us at 417-561-0750. We encourage you to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. On behalf of our entire team, I'm Preston Knapp, inviting you to join us again next time as we continue to explore the marvels of God's creation and grow in our love for Christ.